Dame is number one.
Notre Dame with a miracle win as the clock
Going
runs.
in. Notre Dame has scored.
Once again, it's star one to ask a question. We'll take a first question from Eric Hansen with South Bend Tribune.
Well, Coach, how did the big game going? By the big game, I mean the one today.
We're up 20-0 going into the third quarter. That's my son Kenzel. So he made sure that he got some rest for this game because he went to the game and didn't get back till 4:30 like everybody else.
Okay. I wondered how Everett emerged from this game, both physically and maybe from a mental and confidence standpoint.
Well, I could just comment on how he was after the game, and he was certainly a young man that was full of excitement and confidence. Got a chance to spend some time with him on the bus ride to the airport, and I think what we were most pleased with was he was smart and he was disciplined. Some of the things that we were talking about between the art and science of the position, he threw the ball away when he was under duress, made good decisions. So I think he's feeling pretty good today.
As far as George Atkinson, when did that kind of come on? Is he over it? And did it affect anybody else on the team?
We had battled during the week. We had 6 players at certain times during the week that battled a stomach flu, and he was weak and dehydrated. It didn't make sense for us to put him on a plane, but he's cleared and feeling pretty good today.
Was Gunner one of the players that was sick?
No, we just felt like in this situation where we had a number of administrators on the plane, we just didn't. We had to look at paring back our travel squad a little bit, and Gunner wasn't going to get on the field. You hate to lose the opportunities to see a game day, but we had to make some tough decisions on leaving some guys home.
Coach, what's the challenge of getting a guy like Chris Brown ready for a moment like he had in that game?
Yeah, you have to keep, you got to keep calling the plays that put him in those positions. And during the weeks in practice leading up, there's calls that Chris has during the practice, and he knows what he's doing. It's just you're waiting for that opportunity. You can't call it for the first time. I mean, that's a play that we've run probably 50, 60, 70 times during the week over the past 8 weeks of repping that particular play. And so, it's not for us as coaches as much of a gamble as you would think putting a true freshman out there because, we've repped it so much.
Last one for me, from somebody that had to kind of struggle with differentiating teams 2, 3, and 4 in the polls. How was that process for you?
I think it was a pretty easy one for me. I think I kept the poll pretty much where it was, and we moved up one based upon the Florida State the Florida loss.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Matt Fortuna from ESPN.com.
Brian, looking at Pittsburgh, they're arguably the most erratic Division I team this year, lose to an FCS team, blow out Virginia Tech. Just how do you kind of put together what they've done through this season? How do you what's the message going into this week?
Well, a team that's starting to find themselves. Another head coach. 3 head coaches now. A lot of turnover, but they're clearly starting to find about who they are. And Coach Chris has done a very good job of a consistent message. Sunseri's playing the best football of his career at the quarterback position, and they have arguably 2 of the better running backs that we'll see, and Graham is an established player. So I think it's more about they're starting to find out a little bit about who they are and a little bit more consistency now that they have a head coach that is getting his message across.
Last week, you talked a little bit about the locker room after the game, how you wanted them to be a little more excited. I imagine that wasn't a problem last night, but can you just kind of describe the players' response to a win like that?
They were very excited about the win, but they felt really good about how they won the game. So it wasn't it wasn't a giddy group. It was a group that felt like they had earned the win and celebrated accordingly. And we got on the bus and we got on the plane, and you could barely hear a pin drop. The guys were out sleeping. So you know when you gauge a win how your team reacts, and I thought it was an appropriate reaction after the game.
Thanks, Brian.
Take our next question from Brian Hamilton with the Chicago Tribune.
Hey, Brian, kind of going back to Everett a little bit, you never want to assume too much with a first-year quarterback, but assuming he can play at that level, near that level, maybe even exceed it, how much does that open up this offense and how aggressive you can be and how varied you can be?
Well, I think what it allows us to do is to continue to be more balanced as an offense, and I think we talked about some of the weaknesses that we had in throwing the football, particularly on third down. We were much better in this game. So, and again, I would tell you that some of the progress has been derailed by some injuries along the way, but the mental development has been really good, and if we continue to go that way, it's going to give us an offense that's going to be difficult to defend because we'll have great balance. That's what we're trying to get with Everett in there. Not an offense that throws it 50 times, nor an offense that runs it 50 times. One that's really balanced and more difficult to defend.
How much are you adding to his plate at this point? I mean, I know you said the injuries kind of get in the way, obviously. How much are you adding to his plate week by week by week here? Are you trying to keep it kind of level?
Yeah, I would say that we're not adding very much at all. We're just trying to get better at what we feel is his top plays. There's a lot more dialogue on, hey Everett, what do you like here from a menu of plays. We're trying to keep it at a minimum in terms of adding plays.
And you've been through, like you said last week, you've been through the sort of the BCS beauty pageant rodeo before when you have multiple undefeated teams. And I know you said you just win and let the rest take care of itself, but in a way, do you have to think about putting your team in the best position in that beauty pageant to win as emphatically as possible, to make it more almost aesthetically emphatic in ways week to week?
I mean, I think in an ideal world, yeah. I mean, all your games, if they were blowouts, that's the way you'd want them to be designed. But I don't think that there's any actual conversation or the way we practice or prepare that would get that to be something that we even talk about. So the reality of it is, it's clear that you want to win your games and you want to win them in convincing fashion, but there's nothing that we will do practically that will emphasize that in any way. So it kind of becomes a moot point for us to even discuss it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Take our next question from Pete Sampson from Irish Illustrated.
Brian, I was kind of curious on the Everett point. Chuck Martin mentioned sort of about the menu a little bit earlier in the year, and Everett wasn't giving a whole lot of feedback about what he liked, what he didn't like. When did you start to see that pick up, that it was more of a two-way conversation with him?
We've kind of forced it on him a little bit more in practice, and as we repping plays out in practice, we're having more dialogue with him as he's running the plays. They're not conversations that are based upon, hey, look at this sheet, what plays do you like? We're going to run plays in practice. We're going to pare ones down that don't fit him, and we're going to accentuate the things that he really likes. So it's more about how we tweak our practice with our play calls with him.
And I would imagine, and you hinted at this, but last night, there's always something you're going to see on tape that you didn't like. Was this as hard as you've had to look to find that kind of stuff? And it was just overall, since you've been here, is this the best performance by Notre Dame since you arrived?
It was in the four areas that we've asked our kids to play this game, it was on point. We wanted to be smart, disciplined, physically and mentally. We wanted to be tougher than our opponent, and we hit all four of those. So as it relates to what the message was and what we wanted to accomplish, it hit all 4 points for us.
And just lastly, injury-wise, how'd you come out of last night, and specifically on Bennett Jackson? I know his shoulder got hit pretty good on Blake Bell's touchdown run. He came back to play, but overall, where are you guys health-wise today?
That wasn't a concern with Bennett. We had a hand injury with Farley. It will not cause him to miss any practice time. That's really it. We came out of it very clean.
Thanks.
Yep.
We'll take our next question from Tim Rohan from New York Times.
Hi, Coach. Everett was just talking yesterday after the game about how during the off week where he sat out with that concussion that he kind of saw what was going wrong with his play and he kind of fixed his mechanics. You talked about it too, how he's a better communicator with his teammates. I was just wondering, you obviously looked at, especially on the 50-yard passes and the out routes, that his passes were crisper. What did he change with his mechanics? And specifically, I guess, how is he communicating better with his teammates? How did that show, I guess, in a result?
I think this is more about the realization that you have to have some discipline and some real solid mechanics to move your play at the quarterback position. I just think he's beginning to realize that those detailed things that we've been, banging him on the head with will actually make him a better quarterback. And I think by getting a chance to step back and see it and watching it, I think he realized more and more how important it is to be disciplined in those areas. And then I think he just flat out made a decision that I know that this coaching is going to help me, and I'm going to take it to heart.
Was there a mechanical thing, though? Was there something with his footwork or the way he was throwing the ball? Or is it just, when you say take the coaching, what kind of coaching were you trying to get across to him?
Most of it were the fundamentals of, his drop, the kind of ball that he was throwing. There were more technical things that he really had never been, coached in those fashions. They kind of let him do what he wanted to do out there, and now we're getting a guy that has to be a lot more refined because of the talent he's going against. And I think he just realized how important it is to be on time and to have a good base and to throw the proper ball away from the defense. And I think he's picking up on those things as we continue to develop them.
And one last thing for me, thanks, Coach. But the communicating with his teammates, what wasn't he doing before? What did he change? It sounds like you're communicating more with him at practice, talking about what he likes, what he doesn't like. But when it's him and his teammates, what's different? Assertiveness,
taking control, the quarterback position, especially in the no huddle, voice inflection, all of those things where they were never really part of his makeup. He understands how important it is. And his O-line's done a great job of saying, hey, listen, Everett, you need to communicate with us if you want us to help you here. So I think it's been Everett understanding, again, when he got a chance to sit back and look at it, how important, because Tommy Rees does a great job of communicating. I think he really picked up in the time that he had a chance to sit back and look at it, how important that communication is.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll go next to Tim O'Malley from Irish Eyes.
Hey, Brian, there's a lot of 3 down on defense last night after a couple games where you guys featured 4 down linemen. Just kind of wondering what goes into a strategy like that versus Oklahoma or their type of offense.
Play calls, coverages, the way we wanted to keep the points down. We dropped 8 quite a bit in the coverage, so that's going to match more with our 3 down. Our 4 down is our base nickel package, so we run coverages out of that front. So it's really matching some fronts with some coverages that we wanted to run. That's why you saw both 3 down and 4 down.
It was that Prince's kind of, he wasn't in 3 down as much, I guess, in the last couple of weeks. He seemed to be a little bit more comfortable there in coverage this time.
Yeah, Prince doesn't like playing out there. You know, he wants to be, he wants his hand on the ground. He wants to go get the quarterback. But he definitely helped our football team in accepting a role that is not one that, you know, is what he likes to do. But he understands how important it was to drop bait and to be into the short field and to take away some throwing angles, and did a nice job for us.
And last for me, Tavares kind of bounced back with, for lack of a better description, some competitive catches yesterday. Just wanted to get your thoughts on him after last week and kind of a botched interception play last week.
Yeah, I think you really hit the right word. He competed, and that's what we look from Double D, is competing every single play. He's a young guy. He's starting to figure it out. You know, you got to compete at the highest level every single play, and we're demanding that from him. And I think in terms of competing, you're right on. He competed against Oklahoma. Now the challenge is to compete the same way against Pittsburgh.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
And once again, it's star one to ask your question. We'll take our next question from Tim Priester with Irish Illustrated.
Brian, a couple impressive defensive statistics yesterday. I don't know if there was one more impressive than the longest run that you gave up was just 7 yards. When you have a defense that you know is unlikely to give up a big play like that, how does that impact what you do up front, pass rush, et cetera?
Yeah, it allows us to do a lot of things in terms of coverage, and you know, now you get a guy like Manti Te'o who can get his eyes on the quarterback and jump some things, and then on the other hand, we can get into some coverages that make it really difficult, you know, to throw the football. You're vulnerable to the run, but we've seen that even in a 3-down look that we can hold up against the run. So it's what I talked about last week. We needed to make Oklahoma one-dimensional. If we could make them one-dimensional, we could do a lot of things in the secondary and with our linebackers to keep the points down.
Have you ever had a defense that you're aware of that went a whole game with the longest run 7 yards?
No, I can't remember one that would have a stat like that, because you think the quarterback is sometimes going to scramble for 7 yards. So, again, I think, you know, when you look at what we're doing defensively, it starts up front and the ability to control the line of scrimmage, and it just allows us to do so many things in the back end.
I know Bob Elliott has a fairly extensive background in the Big 12 and playing against Oklahoma. Are there any insights that he was able to provide just with his experience against playing their offense?
No, we got a dynamic staff. They were doing some things that were pretty amazing on the sideline. You know, they had a smash concept into the short field that gave us a little bit of trouble, and you know, our kids we were making some adjustments. Bobby and Kerry Cooks and Mike Elston were doing a great job. We were able to make some adjustments, and when you have a veteran like Bobby and somebody that you can rely on that can help make those adjustments, it's huge for our defense. He makes a big impact.
Did his background relationship with Bob Diaco, I mean, I'm sure that played a role in your decision to pursue him and bring him on board?
It was primary. We wanted the makeup of that staff. We were looking for a veteran coach who, you know, wanted to come in and not be the guy, not be, you know, the coordinator, but be an asset with a great deal of experience. Of course, they also have strong personal relationships. It's a very dynamic staff. It's the best group of guys that I've ever had in terms of how they work together on a day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
We'll take our next question from David Ventress from Goshen News.
Yeah, good afternoon, Coach Kelly. Just real quick, all season long you've been talking about, you know, kind of tuning out the noise. Does that noise figure to get any louder after last night's game? And if so, I mean, how do you keep the guys, you know, focused on what they've got coming up?
Yeah, it'll continue to get louder and louder. But I think we've already addressed it, and we'll continue to address it, that if they fall trapped to that, they'll lose. And I know this group does not want to lose any football games. They've adhered to all the things that we've asked them to do, and we we will continue to do that. But I think it's important that you have to mention it every week and you have to keep talking about it, or you're going to fall victim to that.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
We'll take our next question from Sean Stiers with Irish Sports Daily.
Hey, Brian, so many things went well last night, and you've touched on a few of them, from the 4 areas to, 4 for 14 with, them on third down. Is there any one thing that really stands out from you, where you just go, wow, I'm so impressed with we were able to do that?
Yeah, 3 true freshmen making an impact, and Chris Brown, Elijah Shoemate, and Kaveri Russell. I think the tackling of our secondary against a very skilled group, we were going to give them the ball in space, and we were going to have to make tackles. And I was very, very impressed with a guy like Kaveri Russell, who's a true freshman that moved over there just a couple of months ago, and the way he tackled in space. And then Elijah Shoemate, too, a guy that, again, is just a true freshman playing in a very big environment. The way they handled themselves in that kind of environment, I wouldn't say surprised me, but those are the things that we're talking about in terms of guys really impressing us.
Then you had just the one penalty last night, and just do you feel like those communication issues, specifically on the offensive side, do you think those are a thing of the past now?
Yeah, obviously we're very pleased with the discipline that we played with. That was a focal point during the week, and as you know, Oklahoma went fast, and their tempo. Right. At no time did we have guys not in position. We didn't have 10 guys on the field. We didn't get caught with 12 guys on the field. I think that to me is the discipline that you need when you play a very good team on the road.
Have you got any updates on the big game since we've started this? Have you been able to look away?
Yeah, I got a text from the wife. We're in pretty good shape. It looks like St. Pius is going to come away victorious here.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Once again, *1 to ask a question. At this time, we have no further questions.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on Tuesday.